A clearer portrait is emerging of Brian Thompson, a 20-year veteran of United Healthcare, a high school and college valedictorian. He was also married and had 2 children, but had separated from his wife and they lived in different homes. CNN's Whitney Wild is live in Minnetonka, Minnesota, where United Healthcare is headquartered. Whitney, what are you learning about who Brian Thompson was and what he meant to that community?
Well, Laura, what is very clear in talking with people who knew him, they affectionately called him BT, is that he leaves behind a legacy of compassion and of leadership. He was a good colleague, a good friend, a good parent. What we learned in speaking with people who knew him in his past and in his present was that he took a lot of time to think about other people. For example, he spent quite a bit of time working with the Special Olympics. Here are a couple of the people who knew him way back when his roots ran through Jewell, Iowa, and today working with him at the Special Olympics.
If you'd look at his class of '93 classmates, they would all tell you that they knew he was going to strive to be something big.
You have somebody who was incredibly smart. He was very good at the work he did. He was had this attention and he would get into the details. He also had this great energy.
Laura, he was so young to have a job that prestigious. He was just 50 years old, again, the CEO of United Healthcare, working his way up through the ranks here, finally achieving that title in 2021, Laura.
I mean, you can't overstate the magnitude of a company like that in my home state of Minnesota. I mean, it is so far-reaching, and to think that this is the CEO and a father, a beloved family member. What are you learning about his family and, God, how this murder is impacting them? I understand that the Thompsons' homes were actually targeted with a fake bomb last night.
Right, as if this family hasn't been through enough, right? They had these bomb threats that were called in at Brian Thompson's home as well as at Paulette Thompson's home. They are close together. They're probably about a mile apart. But the Maple Grove Police Department, that's the police department that covers that area, said plainly those were swatting incidents. It was a hoax. But this tragedy has, it just left them completely shattered, Laura. They have declined much media interviews, but they did issue a statement saying that they are completely shattered, saying that Brian leaves behind, again, a legacy of compassion, of love, of generosity. They called him incredibly talented and a wonderful father, Laura.
Whitney Wild, we can't lose sight of the fact that a human being lost their life as we look to see who this person is who took it. Thank you so much for your reporting. Look, Brian Thompson's widow told NBC News that there had been some threats against him, but as you saw in the surveillance video, he left that hotel alone, was walking alone. There were no bodyguards present that we can see, no protection, it seems. My next guest once provided Thompson with security in the 2000s as he actually was rising through the ranks at United Healthcare. Philip Klein is the CEO of Klein Investigations, and he joins me now. Philip, thank you for joining. When you heard about Brian Thompson walking early in the morning, alone, no security, was that odd to you?
It was baffling, to be honest with you. You get somebody in the #1 healthcare organization in the United States of America who is a corporate executive, a high-ranking one, as a matter of fact, just sitting on the board of directors, and he has no protection around him. That is just baffling. I don't understand it. We still don't understand it. It could have been one of 2 things. According to the teams that we've listened to today, and of course the news media giving us information. One, it could have been a personal choice. He may have not liked living in the bubble, and that's what we call somebody that is in the middle that we are protecting. It's called the bubble. We're around him. Even when he goes to the restroom, we're still right outside the door, that sort of thing. Or United Healthcare chose not to provide security for him. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not going to speculate on it, but it is highly unusual for the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation not to have people around him. It's just, again, it's baffling.
That might be so counterintuitive to people to think that, security, many people think are relegated. Maybe it's a high-profile athletes or entertainers or people in Hollywood. But the idea that there would be some vulnerability for people in such high-profile positions, I think is becoming quite apparent to people, at least this evening. And when you look at that video, the hour of the day, the landscape of Manhattan. Just how vulnerable was he to any attack?
Any attack. It could have been a person that had him targeted. It could have been just a street vendor. You just never know. I thought Mary Ellen kicked it out of the park. You know, I love Mary Ellen. Every time she's on television, it's just I'm intrigued by her. But one thing I haven't heard from a lot of people are two things. Number one, the when the event happened. The event happened at 6:30 in the morning. A lot of people say, well, you know, between 6:30 and 7. A lot of people say, well, why is that important? Well, that's shift change for the New York Police Department. So there's not a lot of street officers on the street at that point in time. Second, I believe, just from what I've listened to from newsreader reports and Intelnet reports, I believe that this man had his schedule. I think this man knew his movements. And I think he posted up, what, 5, 10 minutes before he walked out of that other hotel and walked around the corner and was in front of the Hilton. You know, I think that that's important. And the last thing that I heard your other guests talk about is the gun and the positioning of the gun and how the gun jammed. You know, he did have a suppressor. He did have a baffler on that gun from what we've seen in the videos that have been supplied to all of us out here in the field. And the gun jammed because of the recoil of the action on it and the baffler. And not only that, but the silencer, let's just call it what it is, a silencer, and it did not set off any of the monitors in the city area that listen for gunshots that would have put police in the area immediately.
Wow.
So it just seems like the perfect storm.
Well, Philip, I mean, we don't have much time, sadly, but let me ask you, how many bodyguards should have been around him? What would that detail have looked like to secure his safety?
If he or his company had hired our firm, we would have had 10 agents around him at the minimum.
Really?
And that would have been an advanced team in front of the hotel, but we would have never moved him like that. We would have moved him out of his hotel through the back entrance, put him in a small motorcade, brought him over to the back entrance of the other hotel. You know, that's how we operate.
You're saying other CEOs would have that, Philip? I mean, you're saying CEOs of companies, that would be something like a government official. They would have that level of detail.
Yep, because he's fixing to give a speech in front of stockholders that are not being monitored and are not being checked. So I would make sure that on my team, if I was the detail leader, I would make sure that we would have had the room secure, number one, but number two, we would have brought him through a back entrance because it's that important. You're talking again about a very important man in this country.
Philip Klein, wow. Thank you so much.